Hello?
Hello,
Are we
Jennifer.
are we live? Are
I
we
think we're
there?
live.
Can anybody hear us?
Happy
Oh,
day to all. Happy day to you, Jennifer. Hope you're doing well
yes.
today. Great to see you as always.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
Yes. This is our ninth episode of Hanging with Hero.
Wow.
And yeah, it's been a wonderful ride so far. It's been wonderful to have all of you join us like you're doing tonight. Thank you for joining along, for watching past episodes that I highly recommend you go back and watch if you haven't seen. Because, man, we've covered a lot of ground in this industry, and I think there's a long way still to go. It's been wonderful to talk with you, Jennifer. It's been
It,
wonderful to talk history, celebration of Hero Arts and its 50th anniversary, celebration really of decorative stamping in 50 years
yep.
because when my mom started the company, it kind of was the birthplace of that decorative rubber stamp trend that nobody had really
Yeah.
seen. Yeah, we only had Banker's red and black inks and only woodblock rubber stamps. Most of them were custom stamps, and the industry kind of was birthed back in 1974, 50 years ago.
Yeah. And if you've missed any of the episodes, like Aaron said, please go back and watch them. I had somebody send me a message that said, because of our lives, they've now done 9 long walks on their treadmill because they put it on and just listen. Because you can, the nice thing about these Hanging with Hero is you could just listen. So you can get your cleaning done, you can do your dishes, you can get on the treadmill and make it a little more enjoyable. So it's good for that. Good for that.
Yes. No,
Or there's
it's
nothing wrong with laying on a sofa and drinking a glass of wine. You can do that too.
that true. That is so true. And these have been a lot of fun to do it. Like when we were talking behind stage when I first came up with the idea, I just wasn't sure if people would be interested in kind of understand the history of our industry because you can watch Jennifer every day, really creating magic, really creating inspiration and beauty, creative ideas, using all of the kind of stamps and papers and inks and products that we love in this industry. And this is kind of a different way to look at it, and that is talking about how all of those things came to be, how inspiration happens, how the industry communicates, how we really build community. Because I think community is what is so wonderful about this industry, the friendships
Oh
that are
yeah.
forged, the discussions that are had, and it is wonderful to talk about kind of what came before years ago in order to get to where we are today, where
Yep.
this really is a unique place. I mean, just think of what you can see on a daily basis. Like if you go to any of our crafty friends' websites, or if you go to Jennifer's YouTube channel, every day there is spectacular creativity being done. There's inspiration, innovation. What it feels like almost every day. Go visit, Hero Arts Instagram. We post every day. Visit. We talk with Ralph Tyndall. His TikTok, right?
Yeah.
There's so much to experience, so much creativity being done, and I think sometimes without the perspective of history, without the talk of the 50 years, without hanging with Hero, I think we sometimes forget that this is such a rarefied place in
Yeah.
which we all live, and some of us work, and most of us play. And I think that really is a wonderful gift to all of us. And it's like crafting therapy. I mean, I guess that could be the name of this instead of hanging with Hero,
It could be.
right?
I think a lot of
Crafty therapy.
people start watching videos, for ideas and the actual creating itself. But once they realize that there's a community behind it, videos like this, I think, are even better when you want to get to know it better and see the heart behind it all. So somebody did ask, are you feeling better? You were sick last week, so people are checking on you.
I really appreciate that. Yes, thank you. I'm feeling
Good.
much better. As I mentioned, I went to a trade show that actually our guest tonight, our crafty friend,
Yeah.
was also at, and it was for retailers. And we showed them our new products, and it was in Las Vegas. And when I flew home, I ended up bringing back COVID with me. I feel much better. Thank you for asking. That's very kind. Although I'm sad to report that I got both my wife and my daughter sick,
Oh
both
no.
of them. So I've been making them dinner and trying to do the best I can to keep them healthy. Both of them came down with it this week as well. So that's always sad.
Shoot.
Um, yeah. So, but otherwise, thank you for asking, and thank you all for joining, because I think
Yes.
that Jennifer and I doing this together. I mean, I was so honored when Jennifer agreed to do this with me. And more so than anything, I think the two of us are really honored that all of you have tuned in. I see so many familiar names and people who have joined in past episodes and past shows. So, really, bottom of my heart, thank you for being a part of this and for listening in. And if you get in better shape on your treadmill, then all the better.
Yeah. Hey.
That's yeah. And I think that discussions like this, lives like this, really have become a cornerstone of our industry as things have changed, where we used to go to so many classes in the wonderful stores that exist around the nation. You can still go there, and you can still find great stores out there that offer crafts on a regular night, events in person on a regular basis. Like our friend, Heidi from Simon Says Stamps had her
Mm-hmm.
create event in Ohio,
Yep.
spectacular event. So there are in-person events, but so much more because of the change of the industry. The
Yep.
reduction of the number of retail stores out there have really made it so that these live events are meeting halls. This is where we come together and share ideas, ask questions, and really talk about what's important, which is our beautiful industry. Last week, if you picked it up, you saw Sika and Lydia, and we talked a lot about crafty therapy. And we also
Yep.
invented a new podcast that we will start soon, which is Crafts and True Crime, hosted by Lydia. Jennifer and I will be on that. Not really, but that was a fun chat. And
In her
building on
spare
that,
time.
remember, it was. I mean, we've had some interesting times in these lives. Like, I don't know if you saw Gina's, but she talked about her ghost story, because they definitely
Mm-hmm.
were haunted for a bit
Mm-hmm.
in their facility. A friendly ghost, but nonetheless. You could combine Gina's, ghost story with Lydia's true crime. You might have a story there.
You never
Uh,
know. You never know what's going to happen.
um, and we also, I think we touch a lot on serendipity. We were talking again off stage. I mentioned the movie um, Sliding Doors, where Gwyneth Paltrow
Mm-hmm.
was going to get on a New York subway, and she does, and she gets married and has kids, and then they cut back to that scene, and she decides not to get on that train, and something very different happens. And I think Tim Holtz, he could have become an accountant or not gone to that stamping class, at which a teacher inspired him to the point where he dedicated his career
Yep.
to stamping and created the distress line. So
Yep.
all these great stories, I think, as a whole, taken together, really feed what we talked about last week as the 4 C's: crafting, community, creativity, and classes. And I
Yep.
think that, in the end, is what our industry is about. So, again, thank you all for joining us tonight. And I
Yes.
think we have a lot to talk about, because we have another crafty friend who's going to
Mm.
join us tonight. And I think he's got a lot to say. He's got a
Yeah.
lot to say in many different areas to add to the stories that we've had, to add to kind of the history that we've spun and talked about. And for that reason, I'm honored and excited to welcome Simon Hurley to join us tonight.
Hey friends. Hey Aaron and Jennifer. I'm so excited tonight to be joining you guys and like you said, kind of talking
Yeah.
about the industry and celebrating the amazing 50 years you've had and kind of sharing my experience as well.
Yes. Glad you're here.
Yeah, I'm super
Yes.
excited.
You win
Yeah.
a
Thank you,
medal
Simon.
for the youngest guest.
That's true.
Well, I'm honored. I'm honored to be here.
And I have to be honest, I don't remember your birthday exactly, but you were in the chat in one of our Hanging with Heroes talking, and people were
Yeah.
wishing you a happy birthday, or an almost happy birthday, I remember. So
It
you had a
wasn't long
birthday
ago.
recently, I take
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, my birthday was in May and I just turned 22, so super exciting. Yeah.
Younger than your kids, Aaron.
That's true.
Younger
Yep.
than my two oldest. Well, we're glad you're here because I think we've got a lot to learn about your path and the things that you've been able to do in these past few years. So we're glad you're here.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I started when I was like 12 in the card making industry. So it's been kind of crazy to grow up in this industry and kind of, see all the different changes and really just like start when I was super young.
So
Yeah. Well,
tell me about how you started.
Yeah.
I got to
So
hear this.
I was a really kind of like crazy, kind of rambunctious little kid when I was like 9 or 10, and had so much energy. And I was like sitting in school, and I was always the kid who was like, they'd be sent home, like Simon was a little too loud today. And so like I had a lot of energy and really didn't know where to like, put all the energy or how to control the situation. And so I got into lots of different types of crafts to like kind of put my energy into that. So like I would make friendship bracelets. I learned polymer clay and would make like little clay charms. I rolled little paper beads and made necklaces for my mom and my aunts and my whole family. And so different kind of hobbies like that I started off with. And I found them all on YouTube. So I would go on our family's computer and kind of look up YouTube tutorials and be super inspired there. And that sort of like was a way to channel my energy. You were talking about kind of how it is a therapy to some people. I think for me, it kind of started as a therapy for that. It was like, you're putting your energy all into something, and, you're making something with your hands and getting energy out. And so that's kind of where it started for me. And I would go, weekly to the craft store and get new supplies and check out the different aisles and see what they had. And that's where I found card making. I actually fell into an aisle with alcohol inks. So it's Rangers alcohol inks. And I loved them. I was seeing like, artists use them on their projects, and I would, take the paper and kind of make my own backgrounds. And, you end up with like a stack of backgrounds so high before you don't know what to do with them. And I was looking on YouTube then, and I was like, what do you do with these? And sort of stumbled upon Jennifer's videos and Tim's videos. And, with Jennifer, I kind of really resonated because it's sort of that clean and simple style, and there's lots of different techniques that she does. And so I loved that and found card making from there, and sort of instantly fell in love with the art of card making because every single thing is different. Like I think with the other hobbies beforehand, it's like, you can love origami or polymer clay so much, but you're kind of creating the same thing every time. Whereas with card making, it's like there's so many different mediums and there's so many different ink pastes and whatever you want to color with, that each one is a little palette, and you can make it so different than the last one, and your style can change and evolve. Like there's lots of changing that happens in this industry, which I think is why I fell in love with the products in the first place. And then of course I stumbled down the rabbit hole and found the whole community too, which I think is what made me really fall in love with the industry.
Welcome to the rabbit hole. It's very deep,
Right?
but it's happy down here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, let's share a picture of Simon. Look at him.
Yeah, that was me.
And there's your table of card making supplies, huh?
Yeah, that was
Look at
like my
that.
first little desk. We set me up with a little table in the corner, and I think everyone starts on a little folding table before it, grows into
Yeah.
a whole
Oh,
a whole
yeah.
room. But yeah, that was my desk.
That's awesome.
And I was
That's
probably
awesome.
12 at the time, I think.
Yeah. That's a lot of fun. You're so
Yeah.
much more organized now. I can see behind you.
Yeah, definitely a little more organization behind me for sure.
Yeah. Well, people are really impressed. Some people said that they kind of have met you over the years and really love your YouTube channel, find inspiration from you. Somebody did ask a funny question though. They said, "Do you know what a rotary phone is?"
Oh, I mean, I've seen them, but I haven't seen them in real life.
We'll have to get one sometime and see if he knows how to use it.
Yes.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
turn the dial right, and then it comes back, and then you
Hey,
click another
you know,
number and turn.
you probably only know that because Concord and Ninth has a die set that does that, right?
Yeah, you betcha.
That's great. Yes.
That's funny.
Well, so that's that's so wonderful. I mean, I think in this industry we talk a lot about therapy and a lot of how crafting brings that. So that's very interesting that kind of your origin story starts with trying to find an outlet, for your creative energy. And what a wonderful place. And a lot of people are saying in the comments they're so glad that you made the choice the sliding door choice to not go to a different industry and
Right.
instead
Yeah.
come to
No,
paper
exactly.
crafts.
Yeah, we were
Yeah.
talking about that. We were like, what if I ended up down a different aisle? It's like you could choose anything, right? And so I think it's super cool and awesome that I kind of found that and fell down this rabbit hole and got the amazing community that we did. And then yeah, I started posting to YouTube, shortly after, kind of because I was inspired by YouTube, and so I wanted to then share it with the community too. And kind of snowballed from there and started making videos. Then it got a little bit harder though from there, because then it was like, well, I started making videos at the end of middle school and we're kind of going into high school, and then you're putting yourself out on the line, right? And sometimes high schoolers aren't always the nicest. And so, you're kind of, it then became like oh, maybe this is going to be kind of a therapy for me because I wasn't having the best time in school. And so I think, it was interesting to go into a whole new atmosphere where, like, my friends from childhood knew that I was doing this because we went to school since kindergarten. But then you're going into a whole new atmosphere, and it's like, oh, these people know you before you know them, and they can judge you based on what you put out online rather than just like talking to you in person. So it became a little bit harder kind of during high school to manage it and to kind of navigate all of that. But I think the biggest advice I could give to anyone who's younger and kind of going through that, or even, a little bit older too, anything that you're doing, some people might have some things to say about it, but I think as long as you're making yourself happy and you're doing what you love, and at the end of the day, you're doing it because you love it so much, there's going to be people that to you that support you so much, like this community has, and
Yeah.
you can't really listen to what all the outside voices are saying, because then I wouldn't be here today if I listened. So
Yeah.
Very smart. Very smart.
Well
yeah.
said. Yeah. And I think that's so important, because I think it's kind of a theme too that we've seen throughout Hanging with Hero is you do you. And that's what I think this industry is so wonderful with, is no reason, there's nothing to really judge. It's, wow, that is really cool the way you did that. It's not my style, but I love how you
Yeah.
expressed yourself. And I think that, again, this is a fairly unique place in that respect, because it is a wonderful place to really kind of support that desire and that interest to really be yourself. High school, not so much.
Yeah, high
High school's
school's
rough,
not the
man.
place. I will say, now that we've all grown up a little bit and got out of high school, we've kind of rekindled those relationships, and everyone's been super nice ever since. But I'd say in high school, you're all trying to like kind of butt heads, and you're all trying to be the best, and that comes with some unkind nature. But I think everyone's kind of grown out of that and kind of have learned to be nice, and I think kind of grow up and forget about it.
So who
Yeah.
really helped you through all that? Like, who was your support system? Were they your teachers, your family, a few friends? Like, how did you get, because that's hard. That's really
Yeah.
hard.
It is,
Yeah.
yeah. I would say I had a couple friends that I would really turn to, and really that were super supportive,
Mm.
and super close, and they kind of loved what I was doing. They understood it. Like I said, a lot of those kids that I grew up with, they were still in high school with me too, so they kind of totally understood it.
Yeah.
My parents were also super supportive of everything that I was doing too. They were like there every step of the way, and my mom was traveling with me when I needed to travel, and so they were so supportive from the start. So I think the mix of friends, family, and then the online community that we were in, I think so many people can like turn to online because you can find so many people that are there to support you and have the same kind of mindset as you do. So I think it was a mix of all three of those, but I think the community really helped me through it too.
Oh,
Good. Kathy
great.
Zilski said, "Man, I'm decades away from high school and I still haven't processed all that mucky muck." It's
Yeah,
true.
True.
it's
It's
wild.
true.
It's a wild time.
Yeah.
I still have stress dreams, and I imagine myself in high school. Primarily
Yep.
that one where you come to class and you haven't been there all semester, and it's the final exam and you don't even have the book yet. And maybe you're naked. I don't know what. It's all of those things.
You can't
Yeah,
find the room where the class is.
Right. Yeah.
high school was the worst. It was
Yeah.
pretty bad, but
I get that. I
Yeah.
get that. Well, I
So,
got the privilege of meeting your mom
mm,
when years ago. I was at Gina's store, and you were there, and so and I mean, she's just so supportive of you. You were, I don't know, maybe 18 then? maybe younger than that,
Yeah, I think I
17?
was 18 at that point. But like
Yeah.
even before then, when I was like I think 13 even, scrapbook.com had reached out because they wanted to do a class, like some online classes with me. And at this point, it was like that was the first kind of offer that I had ever gotten. It was just an email, and my parents were like, "Hey, let me see that. Like that's a little weird. If someone wants to fly you out to Arizona, right?" And so my parents got on the phone and talked to them, and we fly out, and I think that's when my mom probably like realized that it actually was something. And so
Yeah.
from there on, we've flown out several more times to do other classes than that. And then when I was 15, I think we went to Creativation for the first time, and I think that's when
Wow.
it really clicked for them that like, hey, there's a whole industry behind this. I think we can really support them through this, and I think, yeah, she's been an amazing support throughout the whole thing, and my dad too, kind of talking behind the scenes and coming up with different ideas and things like that. But yeah, she's traveled with me the whole time and has just been so kind, which is amazing.
I think
Mm.
Mike has a picture of you from your first Creativation. Is that what it is?
I got
Oh yeah,
Is that
yep. There we
look at
go.
that.
Little baby at Creativation.
Yeah.
And this other one may be the parents. I don't. Are these your parents?
Yep.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
yep.
There's your parents.
There they are. Yeah, that
Look at
was
that.
the year that I launched my product line. So the year before that, when I was 15, I went with Tonic Studios and I demoed their products. And then when I was 16, I got a product line with Ranger, and so that's that picture. We all went together, and it was kind of the drop of my line, which was so exciting for them to see.
That is special. That's a great photo. Okay,
That's
so tell
awesome.
us. So transition us though, as you
Yeah.
bring up your line. Like, how'd you go from, really wanting to getting that creative therapy and finding an outlet? Then you evolved to YouTube to now thinking, okay, wait a minute, I want a product line because I've got ideas. Like, how did that go? And then what products did you start with, and where have you gone with it?
Yeah, so ever since I was little, my biggest dream was to like work at a craft store. Like that's just what I wanted because I was so passionate about products that I didn't even want money. I was like, I just want to like help people do this and show them all about the products, right? And so when I was 16, like that's finally when I could start working. So it was crazy that like I wanted to work at a craft store, and now I'm trying to get my own product line here. Um, and so for me, it was like I had worked with a lot of different crafting companies, and Ranger was one of my favorites just because they have in-house chemists and they were making their own formulas in the US. And that was super important to me because I love like inks and pastes and kind of the media side of it. Um, and so I reached out to Ranger, thinking nothing's going to happen. Like the worst they could say is no, right? And so I emailed them, and their marketing person passed it on. And I got an email maybe a week later, and I was just like, no way, this is happening, right? But I had brought them an idea for a line of ink pads. Unfortunately, we haven't made the ink pads yet because it hasn't worked out, but it's a cool idea. So hopefully in the future, if the technology evolves, we can create something like that. But I brought that idea to them, and then we sat down and they offered me the product line and kind of wanted to flesh out a whole product line because of that concept. They were like, come to us with different ideas, but you really had a vision for like how you wanted this line to look. And they were like, that's what we want. We want, new ideas and fresh ideas to the industry. And so that's what kind of started it all. And then we ended up developing the line of inks you see now, which are those dye ink pads that I have. They blend beautifully, they stamp really well, and they watercolor. Those super no, you're all good. Super bright colors in those ink pads because I just love bright and bold colors. And then at the very beginning too, I was trying to do a line for like guys and for kids as well because I thought that it was super important to make products for everyone. And there wasn't a lot like that at the time. And so that was kind of my main goal at the beginning. And it's evolved since then, but that is what our product line started with Ranger.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And what year was
And
that?
people,
That was, I think, 2019. I was 16 when it launched.
okay. And people are saying they love your pastes. They love
Yes.
all your products. They're very inspired by how you use the things that you promote. They love your Ranger line. So those are some of the comments. And then actually, Libby Hickson, who's in the comments, from here, she said she remembers going to maybe that Creativation that you were at, and loading you up with hero products just to see if you were interested in
Of
playing
course.
around. And
Yeah.
you did actually do what we called a blog takeover. I think at that time you did a blog post with us and a video. I think Mike has pictures. We went back to the archives. This is,
Oh, look at
special
that.
guest designer,
Oh, nice.
2018. And that was you creating a picture with, a card with your dog. I guess you talked a lot about how you had a passion for card making and for dogs particularly. And then the next one I think is from your YouTube page where you did a video with all the cards that you created
Oh, so
using
cute.
our products. I think it was like a Starbucks card, like a gift card that was
Yeah.
you gave in that. So that was a lot of fun. That's 7 years ago.
That's crazy. Insane, right? How time just flies by. It's wild.
Yeah.
Wow. So where did
It's
it evolve? You started with the inks. Where did you evolve from there?
Yeah, so I think that at the very beginning, I think this is kind of a big lesson too for young people. As you're getting into an industry, it might be a little bit hard to kind of stand up for yourself a little bit, especially
Mm.
because a lot of the people are, older than you and have a lot more seniority over you because, if we've been doing it for this long, why do we change it, right? And that's kind of the conversation you'll hear often. And I think for me, it was the first couple of years, it was a little bit of a struggle having a product line because it was like you're trying to do what they want, but you're also trying to do what you want. And you might kind of meet in the middle, but it's not necessarily what you wanted in the end. And so I think that as my product line has kind of evolved, I've learned to sort of know when to accept what they can bring to the table and then know when to
Mm.
say no and bring what I need to the table. And so I think that was a big turning point for me to know that like, hey, you've got to say no when you don't like something because then you're going to come up with something better in the end, right? A product could take 3 years because you keep saying no, but it'll be a lot better in the end than it was. And so it kind of evolved from there. We've created stamping foam since then, which was a product that had been discontinued, and we sort of brought back to the market because I thought that it would be super cool with card making. It's a foam that you can heat up and you press it down into any texture, and it creates your own stamp with it. So I think that was kind of one of my favorite products from a couple of years ago. And then recently, I think maybe 3 years ago at this point, it feels like it was just yesterday. We released a product called Lunar Paste. And so Lunar Paste is this sort of creamy texture paste that has a bunch of shine to it. You'll see a bunch back there on my little stand there, but it's this texture paste and it is super bold and metallic. And the reason why I wanted that paste is because I wanted to be able to rub it on with your finger and sort of like burnish it into something and get that metallic look, but have it be completely dry and not come off your hands in the end. And so this is where like the chemists at Ranger are really important. And I love them so much that they have them because I was talking to them and I was like, hey, I want like a makeup palette. Like I want something you could dig your finger in and just put on with your finger. And he was like, well, that it won't be stable because it'll come off on your hands. And so, we want it to be able to dry. And he sent me these pastes, the first batch of them. And he was like, hey, try this. I think this is what you sort of want, but I'm not quite sure. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like paste, like this seems a little too messy for me. And I wasn't on board at the beginning. And then I pulled it out with my finger and I burnished it onto the cardstock and it dried completely smooth and metallic. And it wiped off my finger pretty clean, super easily. And I was like, I think this is the formula. I think this is, what I want for my line. And so from there, it was developing all the different colors. And what's awesome about these is they're all a different pearl powder inside of here. So it's not like a white pearl that we've tinted with just like a dye reinker. It's each one has an individual powder. So that way it's super bold and it shines that color on black or white cardstock. So I think that's what kind of made the paste stand out. I'm not going to be like, claiming that I invented texture paste or anything like that. But I think when you bring something to the market with a different use, whereas like I wasn't just putting it through stencils, my use was mainly that I wanted to use it with my finger. And I was like, everyone thinks it's weird because it gets a little bit messier, but it comes out with just the most beautiful kind of burnished metallic looks. And from that, we've created, solar paste and most recently Astro paste, which has a bunch of glitter in it. So the Astro paste, you can see
Yes.
like each individual fleck of glitter in there, which is crazy.
So
That's
fun.
cool.
Yeah, super cool.
I just love that story because you had a vision. You knew what you wanted to do, and you didn't know exactly, it sounds like, what it would look like or what it would be like, but you just knew that you wanted to do it with your fingers and you wanted it a certain look, and you made it happen. And I think that is innovation. Because I think that our industry, we're old enough as an industry where, uh, pretty much, if you think of it from a perspective of an invention, nothing that we're doing is new. Like, it was all somewhere in the art industry.
Mm-hmm.
Even back decades, like stamping's been around since the 18th century. But it was never decorative rubber stamping the way that my mom and the early companies envisioned it until those companies started. Not that they invented stamping, but that, or the woodblock stamp, for example, but they invented the new use. And I think that's exactly the story that you just encapsulated. That's innovation. That's creativity in a nutshell, is that you had a vision for how you want to do something and you change the way people do it. Again, maybe old materials, but the process is unique to Simon. And I think that's why people in the comments are saying they love your pace so much, because you've got a vision for it and a color palette and a lot of great support on your YouTube channel that show you doing it and in many other places. So well done. I love seeing that. And it's such a beautiful way to, again, illustrate you do you, Simon, because you did it beautifully. And that's a great example of it.
Thanks. And yeah, I won't negate the fact too that it's a whole team of people at Ranger that are amazing. I think that's the
Yeah.
cool part. Like what you just said is it's like you could be sitting in a meeting room and you might think that you're coming up with a new idea and you sit down and you're like, hey, what if we do this? And they're like, that's 10 years old. Like that's been done. But then you kind of look at it from a new lens, right? You're like, okay, well, what if we make it better in this way because we now have a new pace that we want to use it with. And so I think that's where like the cool innovations happen with our industry, is because like I'm trying to look at it through a new lens and I might not have known that something happened 10 or 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But you can bring it back
Before
and
you
say,
were born.
right before I
Yeah.
was born. Yeah. But you can bring it back in a cool way when you have all the heads thinking together and everyone thinking about a product.
Yeah. No, that's a great story. And Jennifer, I credit you, because watching your videos and your lives, I'm not kidding. I think every time I watch you create with your hands, I learn something new. And it's not that you're the first one to do it. It's just that you do it in a way that just seems new and fresh each time. And I think that if our industry only had a fixed number, a finite number of techniques, a finite number of innovations, people would have gotten bored years ago. But that's just not the way it is. In fact, just the opposite. I think every time I watch your videos, I'm just in awe how creative you are and how creative this industry is on a regular basis. And talking with you, Simon, and all the guests before, it just reinforces that for me. So I'm very thankful to be a part of all of this.
Totally.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
and as I've said, like I can't do any of what I do without the products that you guys develop. So that's the starting point.
Yeah.
And then you take them and bring them to a whole new level. It's like I wouldn't have thought to do that, but it's so cool watching you work with like one of our products, and it's like, whoa, like that just brings it to somewhere where you never imagined. So yeah, it is amazing.
I need a life. What can I say? So when did you get into? So you did the inks and the paste, but you have more than that now. What else do you have?
Yeah, so we started off with stamps. We're still doing stamps, and then a while into it, a couple of years in, I was talking to Ranger, and our background stamps are a little bit innovative. I'll show you real quick. So they're kind of cool because some of them have these little parts and pieces that like peel out of the rubber here, so that you have like an image separate, but you could put it back in if you want to use the whole background. And a couple of years, I think 2 years into it, I was talking to Ranger, and I was like, what if we, because sometimes there's die cut stamps out of rubber and you peel the rubber out and you're left with just the stamps. I was like, but what if there's no waste there? Like, what if we use both parts of that and both of it's a design? And they were like, I don't know if that's going to work. Like, we'll talk to our manufacturer, but I don't know if that's going to be able to happen, because there has to be a die for each individual piece to cut everything out. And so I think that was another cool kind of area where there was a little bit of innovation too, and kind of makes it so that you can use your background stamp just normally, but then also you could peel it out and anyone can make a different look from it, because you're able to change it up and use it however you want to, which I think is awesome. So we have background stamps and clear stamp sets as well. And the paste.
Red rubber. I love to see you guys doing Red River. I love to see
Yeah,
you doing Red River because
Red River
so
is
much of the
so good.
industry, yeah,
Yeah.
has gone to clear, right? And you could have, again, the sliding doors metaphor, you could have just gone to clear. Like so many people
Yeah.
don't really use woodblock stamps, don't use cling stamps, don't kind of get the joy of the red rubber. Like as you can see behind me, those are all background cling stamps up the wall behind me. And there's a certain art and a creativity that's a very different approach than clear stamp. So I'd love to see that you did that as a younger stamper and really got into red rubber as well.
Yeah, and we've been doing like just stamp sets like it too. Like they don't all have to be backgrounds. I was like, I want to do red rubber and stamp sets because clear is good for a lot of things. I think you can get, a great impression out of clear. But when you want that like extra detail and that extra like great stamped impression, turning to
Yeah.
that red rubber, it's incredible. It's amazing. The price point's a little higher, but it's like it's worth it for the stamped impression you get.
Yeah.
Significant difference. Yeah. I think
Hmm.
a lot of people who are newer to stamping often don't know that, we started with red rubber and it was because it stamps so well. I mean, it's what it was intended to do. So I think a
Yeah.
lot of people have missed out on that.
Yeah.
And how many times have we heard in the comments on these Hanging with Hero that people's first stamp was a woodblock stamp, often from Hero Arts, probably because we're talking about Hero Arts, but woodblock stamp maybe at Joann stores,
Yeah.
right? And so then they're kind of seeded into the industry, just like going down that aisle and having to buy that, and then they get introduced to the world of stamping through clear, through your different cling sets or clear sets, through the pastes, distress inks, all the various world of stamping. So wherever people enter, I think it's a beautiful place. And I think that Red Rubber used to be the only stamp in town. And the fact that there's variety and each one has different attributes that are a wonderful contributor to creativity, I think just makes us all better. So I applaud you for doing Red Rubber, but let me not take away from you telling us about the rest of kind of the creativity that you wanted to explore with your product line.
Yeah, no, I do have to say I have part of the same story here. One of my very first stamps, it was like Christmas time, and it was a nativity red rubber stamp from Hero Arts from Joanne actually. So like you hit all the points there. You hit every single one. So that's I created my Christmas cards that year with that stamp, and now it's a piece of decor. I set it up on a shelf, and every Christmas that one's out because it's kind of it's a cool decoration too to have that red rubber block on there.
Yeah. In some ways, the Misty, for those of you, I'm sure most everyone knows the Misty these days, but I'll describe it just to be sure. And that is that it's a stamping system that allows you to align your stamps. It actually works with red rubber, works with cling, but most people use it for clear because you can see through it and you can repeat the impression precisely with measurements. The Misty, in so many ways, made clear stamping more accessible because in the past, the interesting thing about woodblock stamps is they were very accessible because people just kind of knew innately how to use them. There was a block involved. You knew to add ink, although Tim Holtz tells the story that people would bring them back that had the color tops because they wouldn't stamp in color because they didn't realize you had to use different inks to get the color. But other than that, they were fairly self-explanatory. The one thing that I find interesting, and I want to ask you this question, Simon, uh, because I'm very interested to know how, as an industry, we can kind of solve that, is that clear stamps are, that you get a lot of impressions, a lot of stamp designs in one set. You can align them easier. You can do a lot of different things in terms of storage. Like if you had the equal number of woodblock stamps, you
Yeah.
need a lot more shelf space. So there's wonderful attributes of clear stamps. But here's the problem. How do we find new stampers like you when you were 13 to understand what a clear stamp is? Like it's just
Yeah.
not as clear that is something that you can understand. It's not as accessible. And so how do we kind of find your 13-year-old equivalents now out in the market? And how do you deal with that now with your product line to really cater to new stampers?
Yeah, so I do a lot of like short little videos too as I'm creating cards to kind of promote the longer videos. I love long form, and that's kind of always been my thing. But to like promote a video and to like help it get out there, I'll do the algorithm gods a favor and I'll throw out a little short video too, right?
Yeah.
And so when I'm doing that, I notice that a lot of people get really confused with the clear stamps because it's like you're pulling it off a sticker sheet, and then they're all like, "Well, are you going to ever use that again?" Right? And so I think for me, it's been important to show like, hey, you're pulling it off the sheet, you're putting it onto that black, and then you also show like, hey, we're going to take it off and put it right back onto that sheet. And I think that sort of gets into people's head, like, hey, this is reusable. You can keep stamping with it. And then I think once they kind of see those shorter videos, it kind of leads them down the same rabbit hole spiral that we went down on, where it's like you kind of get involved in the whole industry and are able to see that, which I think is fun. So I think just being like very expressive about like what you're doing and like putting it back and how to clean stuff too, because I think people are always like, thanks for showing how you cleaned your stencil, because otherwise it's like, well, what do you do with all the mess you just made after you're done, right?
Yeah,
Sometimes
that's
we don't
true.
clean it.
Exactly. Yeah, sometimes you just throw it off to the side and you have to deal with that
Yep.
mess like a week later.
Hmm. That
Yeah. And when
happens.
you use your paste, do you just wear a kind of dirty shirt you don't want and just kind of wipe, your fingers on it, or?
I wish. I wish. Sometimes I go to trade shows with like the whitest shirt, and I'm like, all right, let's play a game here. Can I keep this clean for the whole day? Or sometimes too, like at trade shows, you'll be leaving samples in different places that need to dry, and I always sort
Oh
of
yeah.
play a game now where it's like, okay, whoever puts in their finger in the project wins first, because someone's bound to come up to the table and grab it or touch it,
Yep.
and it's like, I kind of play that fun little game now. That's my joy, seeing who sticks their finger in it first.
Right.
That's good. So there's one question that many people have asked many times, and that is, where do you come up with the names? Because you have fun names for your inks and such. So several people asked, how do you come up with your names?
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, they're kind of fun. I look back on some of them and I cringe a little bit. Me and my friends kind of laugh a little bit because it's like, well, that's what you get when you give a 16-year-old a product line and make him name everything. Um, but so me and my mom actually sit down and we kind of come up with fun little puns or kind of plays on words and things like that. So that's kind of how we come up with the names. I always wanted to just make people smile and laugh when they use my products. And I was like, if it makes me kind of laugh when I'm coming up with it, or if it kind of makes sense to me, I think sometimes it can be funny and playful and a play on words or different things like that to sort of remind you of the color. And some of them are crazy, but I think that's what makes the product line fun and kind of playful.
So which is your favorite product name, color name?
Oh, I like Dart Frog. It's that lime green that you see right back there. It's called Dart Frog. I didn't want to call it Poison Dart Frog because I'm like, then I'm calling my product poisonous. And I was like, I don't want to do that. So I was like, Dart Frog it is. But it's like the brightest green shade you can make, and I think it's so fun.
That
That's
is
fun.
fun. That is really
Yeah.
fun. Yeah, we have a lot of fun naming things too at Hero Arts, and that is one area like where we talked about like there's innovation every day, where we struggle because you don't want to do a line that other people have done, right?
Hmm.
And there's 14.6 million colors, so it's not like you would run out of colors necessarily, but it does feel like you want it really unique. And so I applaud you and your mom for brainstorming, because you definitely have some great unique names
Yeah.
that are very fitting for. We start with like ocean colors and things like that, and that's hard because everybody sees it differently depending on where you are in the world. Like ocean color it's a dark blue or it's a soft green, so
Yeah.
there's no baseline for that. Where
Right.
yours seem to be very descriptive in that respect.
Yep.
Descriptive, and then some of them don't even relate to the color at all, and it's like if someone takes that color name, you know they're copying it because it is too
Yeah.
weird at that point.
Right. Yeah. No, so true. Um, well, I really applaud you, Simon, for kind of how you reach out to customers, and just in the comments, how people are very inspired by uh, kind of how you talk about your product line and how you share on YouTube. Tell us about kind of how you reach customers in general. Like, what about other social media? What's your kind of theory about Instagram Facebook, TikTok, blog versus the YouTube that you're so well known for?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna pull this one, but back in my day, but like 10 years ago, Instagram was Instagram and Facebook and all of these were very different platforms. And it's like back when I first started, like 10 years ago, YouTube was the place to be. And I loved that because it really feels like you're building a relationship with somebody. And it was harder to grow at the time, but you're really like cultivating a whole community there, and it feels very close and very tight knit, which is amazing. And you can log in and like sit down for an hour long Jennifer McGuire video or an hour long Simon Hurley video, and it's like you're learning so much, but you're also kind of spending a lot of time with that person, which I think is my favorite for getting education across and making sure that someone understands everything fully, but also has a great time while doing it. And so
Yeah.
for me, YouTube has always been the place. And I think that will always be how it is with me, no matter, if the tides turn and short form has been kind of the thing for a while. I think I'm still pouring most of my energy into long form content just because I feel the most connected with everyone else on there. I have still, like I said, pleased the algorithm gods over on the other platforms and put out a couple of short form videos and stuff like that. Those are fun. I don't do as much talking because like you can't talk for 30 seconds and actually get anything even out. So and I cut the music out too because it copyrighted, and so all the music is kind of copyrighted, and you can't. It's a weird line to walk, and so I just kind of kept the sounds of the products on there, and that can kind of be relaxing for some people, or they can just leave the sound off. But you're sort of getting a glimpse into the creative process. And then you can choose to watch the whole video if you want to, which I think is fun. But I like it because some people only have 30 seconds or a minute, or they're scrolling, and I think that is the cool part about it too now, is like maybe on YouTube someone our age wouldn't have discovered the content that we're creating, right? Because it's a little harder to find things on YouTube and kind of fall down that rabbit hole. But
True.
nowadays it's like they could be scrolling, they could see that 30-second or a minute long video, click through all the different links and find the longer videos, and then get hooked on a hobby they never thought they would have, and kind of join a really fun community. So it is cool. I love the short form. It's really changed everything, and maybe for the better, maybe for the worse. But I love long form a lot, and I'll probably stick with that.
Yeah.
I
That's
feel
great.
like one of the things I've learned between short term, like the people who watch your shorter videos, in general, and shorter craft videos like on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram and TikTok, those folks, a good number of them have never created a card and likely never will. They just stumble upon it and it's kind of interesting. Whereas people who sit down to watch those longer ones, they're usually like in it to win it, really are interested in what the content is. So I think it's just two very different targets. But with the shorter format, I wonder how many of those viewers end up trying card making. I've always wondered if we're getting new people that way, because I'd love to see the industry grow.
Yeah, I definitely think that we are. I think I've gotten some DMs from people who have just started off of like short form videos, and
that's good.
found the industry from that, which I think is awesome. I think people come across it more organically because they're just shown it, right? You're not really searching on those websites. You're kind of just like scrolling, and whatever pops up, pops up. I think it's funny too because it's like it's getting shown to a lot of people who don't make cards. Like some of my friends from high school, which I have not talked to in years, like found one of my videos that went viral and was like, "Hey, I just came across your video and now I want to make cards." So it's like just
That's
kind of
crazy.
fun. It's going to a bunch of different people, and it might 1 in 1,000 people might actually be interested in card making, but you're reaching a lot of people with that, which is awesome.
Yeah. And again, talking about therapy, circling back to that, I think so many people do watch videos just like kind of I hear people say this, like hearing your voice. Both Jennifer and Simon, people have said that in the chat. And then the ASMR, primarily associated with TikTok. We were talking with Ralph Tyndall, and he said that clear stamps make a beautiful sound that people have noticed too. You take them off the substrate and you put them on the block and you stamp them. There's 3 great sounds that people almost can associate without looking on the screen of their TikTok. And
Yeah.
you do ASMR. I think that you have it's very relaxing. So I think that you have many different senses in how you kind of approach social media. And so it's fascinating to hear you talk about that because, yeah, long form. I think long form is best for a lot of the people in the chat. Most people are saying that they like both, but that long form really is how they kind of learn and watch. And that's why they follow both of your channels.
But that's
Yeah.
why, let's be honest, the people listening here, you're all in the rabbit hole already. You're in the
We've
rabbit
already
hole
got you
with
down the
us.
rabbit hole, right?
You're watching these videos, you like love to see all the inspiration. So
Yeah,
it's such a happy rabbit hole, isn't it?
It's so
it
much
is.
Such a
fun.
good
It
place.
really is. And it's like, for me, it's like that's sort of like a trailer to a movie, right? You're like watching that 1 minute video and it might be linked to a 40 or 50-minute video, but it's like all these people who want to see it can really see
Yeah.
all that inspiration and exactly how you did it, which I think is important.
Yes. That's always been the case too. My mother actually started, for anybody who knows the geography of the San Francisco Bay Area, on Telegraph Avenue. Telegraph Avenue at the time was kind of the center of Vietnam protests. And I only bring that up because it also was kind of the center of creativity, the summer of love. It was always associated with people trying to do things differently, trying to be kind of counterculture. And she would sell on Telegraph Avenue. And people just love to interact with the product and love to hear about the product, but always want to, like you just said, Simon, duplicate the card that she had made exactly. Like you'd say,
Yeah.
oh, you could buy this stamp and that stamp. They're like, no, I want that stamp that's shown on that card, and I want that paper, and I want that ink. And it in some ways, it's the kind of evolution of that same thing. It's always been that way, and yet YouTube really allows you to explore that and explore why you put those colors together, why you use that paste, how you kind of use the stamps to build the layers that are shown. And I think that YouTube is just such a wonderful evolution of that Telegraph Avenue in-person,
Yeah.
card that you could really look at it. And we were talking about that with Simon when we were off stage before we started. We forget how creative this industry is. All of you listening and joining us tonight, you are creative people,
Yeah.
right? You push the rules. You might not think you are as creative as you really are because you're in an industry of so many creative people. But take a step out of this industry, even for a moment, and you guys are some of the most rarefied creative content creators in your own rights, card makers in your family, purveyors of creativity in card making and stamping. So well done. And I think that's the rabbit hole that Jennifer's talking about. That is such a rarefied place. That outside of this, the world is a very different place. It's just not as creative and not as interesting when it comes to kind of that artistic endeavor. So I cheer this industry and I cheer all of you for joining us. And by the way, 750 people joining us on, on an evening to talk about the industry. I think it's a wonderful tribute to this industry, and thank you all for joining. Simon, so there's a few more questions that people have, and that is, how do you get inspired even if maybe you get something that you're not that inspired with? In other words, you have to create something maybe because you have a video coming up or a class you're preparing for and you're not feeling it. Like, how do you kind of gather that creativity and that energy around a product that initially, maybe when you first pick it up, you're like, ugh, I just don't have an idea just yet?
Yeah. So my team probably hates me because I will turn in a video notoriously the night before or hours before launch. But it's really because you have to be feeling it. You have to be ready to sit down. But I also think that like creativity, it's like a muscle almost. So like the more you work out your creativity, the more you want to keep creating. Like I wasn't really super inspired, and then me and Jennifer did a live a couple weeks ago with the Astro Pace that came out, and it was like that was so awesome because we got to create some cards and sort of like jump off ideas from each other. And then it was like after that I probably filmed 3 videos that week because I was so inspired to create, right? And so it's
Yeah.
like that kind of thing. I think if you're not feeling it, maybe try getting in your craft room, try to create something. And then if it's still not working, jump out, go outside, do whatever. But then keep trying to come back because you might just strike gold and create some cards you absolutely love. And then maybe you'll be more and more inspired after that. But yeah, my team probably doesn't love it. And I get emails sometimes being like, all right, this is the, not like warning me or anything, but they're like, I know you and I know that it's coming tomorrow. So yeah.
Hey, I'm the same way, but here's the thing. For a long time, like it would bother me that I was that way, like last minute and sometimes late. But, there's a lot of things in life, family, kids, whatever. But also, there are very few jobs where it is 90% relying on you being creative. And it is so hard to be creative on demand. Like to say, I need to be creative from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day. Like, it doesn't work that way. So I think we got to give ourselves and each other grace for that kind of stuff, and it all gets done in the end. And usually, whatever comes out is going to be better than if it was forced, without that kind of creative feeling behind it. So I think a lot of, like Mindy's here, she said, I find 90% of crafters are last minute Lucy's. Yeah, we are, a lot of us. I don't think Mindy's one of them, but Simon and I are. And
Yeah.
hey, but we get it done, right?
We were at a retreat, and some people are so organized and they have their months planned out, and then it's like, I haven't created my launch video for next week yet, and so it's just like it's things like that. But we always get it done. I think in the bottom line, but like we're gonna create our best work. Some people work better like last minute, and then that's kind of how I've always been. Like school assignments were always last minute, but I'd get them done, and it's kind of been the same thing with crafting too. I sort of create my best work when I'm on a time limit.
Well, That's funny because I'm the opposite. When I was in engineering, like homework, I needed to have it all done early. I had to study early for a test. Like I wasn't the one who waited till like the night before. But I think it's the creative aspect is really, I don't know. That's what I'm blaming. I don't know.
Yeah,
I could
it's what
blame them or
takes the
my
time.
kids, one or the other. I don't know.
Yeah. True. People really love your answer, Simon and Jennifer, because a lot of people are saying the same way. Sometimes creativity on demand is too pressure packed. I actually find in a different way, like if you ever like watch those quiz shows or somebody puts you on the spot to remember like a fact or detail, I freeze. But if I don't have the pressure of being asked directly, I often do very well. So it's an interesting interplay where you have to kind of give yourself grace and relax and kind of feel into it and not put the pressure on yourself in order to be kind of your best self. People are saying, ADHD, kind of a superpower if you can harness it, but it's also a disability if you let it overcome you.
It can be maddening to me because like if I were able to get things done faster and more on time, I could do more and I could, show more things, teach more things, help more companies. So I'm with you, Simon. That's one of the hardest parts of it. But hey.
Yeah. We got to accept we can do what we can do and that's the best, right?
Yep, doing the best we can. Doing the best we can.
I saw a question too. I keep referring to my team, and I saw a question about that. So
yes, somebody did ask that.
The people at Ranger. I would say my mom is kind of part of my team as well. She helps work on a lot of things. But my team at Ranger, there's lots of amazing people there: product managers, product sourcers, people to help with the product lines. Which nothing would be the way that it is in my product line or anything like that without that whole team. And then I also have to say, I work for another company as well, and leave it to me to blank this out. But I was on live and a little stressed out. But in 2022, at the end of 2022, I created a product line with Spellbinders as well. And they're an amazing die cutting manufacturer. And they're super innovative too. So they do like dies, but they also have hot foiling and better press, which are
Yep.
two new innovations they've come out with. And so I do a line of coordinating dies with them. So they work alongside Ranger to do dies for all of my stamps. But then I also do a line of dies with them and better press plates and hot foil plates that are solo. So they go on their own and it's really fun. Like I'm going to be honest, when I first came up with the product line, I was like, I don't know if I love die cutting, but people want these coordinated dies, so I'll do it. But I am fully on the bandwagon now. The team at Spellbinders is amazing. They do such a
They
great
are.
job to create these like
Yeah.
3D looking dies. It's super cool. And so we are working well into 2025 on some designs right now, and I'm so excited about them. And the stuff that I have with Spellbinders coming in the next couple of months for Christmas too is like so beautiful. They do such an amazing job with their designs.
That's great.
So they're part of my team as well, and we have a designer there and some product managers as well, and so that's kind of who I'm all referring to when I talk about my team. But just know I could not be doing any of it without all of them.
Yeah.
Somebody also asked, Paula asked, do you draw your own stamp images?
So I have drawn some of my own stamp images. Lately, in the past couple of years, I've sort of moved a little bit away from that and I'll sort of license designs, which means you're paying an artist who is super talented to create these designs. You're able to get more like styles out of it too, because you're able to experiment with different artists that you can license. And so I usually will license the artwork. Sometimes I'll change it a little bit and modify it to make it my own and put it in a set. And then, so some sets that you will see that are a little bit older are my hand drawings, and then some of the newest ones are licensed by artists and mixed with some of my own stuff in there as well. But a lot of licensing.
I think licensing is a good thing, because there are some illustrators out there who this is how they make their living, right? These artists, these illustrators. So it benefits them and it benefits you. I mean, it really works for a lot of people. I think that's a good thing. That's a good thing. I couldn't draw anything to save my life. No way.
Yeah, I can't at all, right? But then you're able to take that amazing artwork they've created. Sometimes you're able to several artists and put it into one set. So it's really cool to be able to bring it all down and put it in for the card making world. Which I think is awesome.
Make it work for cards. Yeah. Sometimes it has to be altered for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, no doubt. Well, I think it's wonderful, Simon, that you kind of have that innovative spirit and the ability to draw, and then of course the ability to kind of be an influencer the way you are and showing people how to use your product line. I think that's rare, and it's wonderful that you support kind of artists, because everybody is themselves and does different parts and different aspects of this industry. So it really is something I think that is interconnected and quite wonderful in that way. We work with Spellbinders in the Better Press area as well, and we love developing Better Press. Just like Jennifer said, if they wouldn't have developed the Better Press, then we wouldn't have made plates for it. And so it's wonderful in the industry to really kind of collaborate and work together in that way. And let me just take this moment to say I really appreciate all of you joining. Again, you're such a vivacious part of this industry. Wonderful questions. It's great to have you join not only this episode. We've got a few more questions for Simon still. We're not ending just yet, but I just want to take a pause and honor and appreciate all of you, because we've got some giveaways that Mike will put up on the screen right now to some of you wonderful listeners. Congratulations to the winners. We have 2 Hero Arts gift cards that also come with a $25 gift card that you, as the winner, can give to a friend to share the love, which is kind of the theme of Hanging with Hero. We also have scrapbook.com that flew Simon out when he was 13. So it's an impressive connection to have that sponsor. So congratulations. And then we also have Ranger, both scrapbook.com and Ranger, and other people have sponsored and supported Hanging with Hero through the onset. So congratulations, everyone. And let me also announce, kind of in honor of Simon, keeping the love for red rubber alive, which I think obviously it's the it's the foundation of hero arts from our roots. Obviously, we do clear and cling and stencils and dyes now as well. But red rubber is kind of the heart of hero arts. We are offering for 24 hours only a flash sale on woodblock stamps and sets.
Yeah.
So this is something just for 24 hours. They're 50% off. That's like wholesale, right? That's crazy. And in honoring the 50th anniversary, we're doing 50% off 5-0. When my marketing team pitched it to me, I thought they said 1-5, and I agreed to it. But 5-0 in celebrating our 50th anniversary, 24 hours only. Go check out our wood stamps and sets. And one final note. Next Monday, our monthly subscription is coming. So
It's a good one.
Hero Studio. I think Mike has a preview. Not yet.
No.
Actually, that is Hanging with Heroes. So that's the playlist for Hanging with Heroes. There we go. There's the
There it
Hero
is.
Studio. These are sneak peeks not yet seen. So you're the first ones to see these. These are showing off our card kit of the month. Our cling of the month, our stamp plus frame cuts of the month, our layering stencils of the month, and our whole studio. And so check it out. You can still subscribe today or tomorrow to get the August kit, which gives you free shipping and guaranteed kit. Otherwise, you can buy it a la carte starting Monday.
There are a lot of products in that release that he just showed, a lot of stencils and stuff that would work really well with Lunar Pace. Like the color,
Yeah.
it would really work well together.
That's amazing.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that tropical is what the
Yes.
theme is. So it goes very well with your dart frog.
Yeah, with those neons, that would be super pretty. With the big neon colors on those tropical flowers, that'd be awesome.
Yep.
Right. Thank
Aaron,
you, Mike.
we have a few more pictures from
Yes.
Simon. And they're just so good. We got to share them. Hold on. Mike loves to share the photos. There we go.
That's me. I think that was probably my third time at Chicopper.com, so I was a little grown up by then.
A little grown up by then. Look at you.
Slightly
Dude,
more.
here's the thing. You're so young right now, yet you've got it all like figured out. Like I'm over twice your age and I have less figured out than you do. It's quite impressive. Quite impressive. All right, you got another one, Mike? There we
Nice.
Also
go.
there, me at Creativation. I think that was this year actually with my products. So my whole product line is there, which is awesome.
That is really fun, Simon. And there you're badged up, so you're actually a part of the team there.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, got my badge on. Those show badges are always so annoying because they get dipped in the paint and the inks while you're working.
Yep, they're huge too.
Yeah.
And then this is when I signed with Ranger. I think I was 15 at this point working on the product line. And so this was what I was greeted to when I went to their offices for the first time, which was awesome. And then we created the product line when I was 15 and released it when I was 16, which is fun.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Another thing, before we go, can you just say where everybody, I'm going to put it in the description, but where are the best places for people to find your work?
Yeah, so you can find me on YouTube at Simon Hurley. That's where you'll find all the long form videos. You can also find some of the shorts there in the shorts tab on my channel. And then you can find my Instagram at Inklips, which is INKLIPSE. If you search up Simon Hurley, though, you probably should be able to find it. And then on Facebook and TikTok, it's Simon Hurley as well. And you can find all the different videos and stuff across platforms there. And then you can find the product lines under Simon Hurley or Simon Hurley Create with Ranger and Spellbinders.
There you go.
Wonderful.
And just out of curiosity, because I'm too old for TikTok, when you share like something on Instagram, is it this? Do you share the same thing between TikTok and Instagram, or do you have different content?
Sometimes yes, and sometimes no. This with Instagram and TikTok, I usually share the same video.
Okay.
YouTube has like a 1 minute limit on their short videos, so sometimes I'll chop the video down even more from there and then upload it to YouTube too. But like what people I think don't know is you're doing the long form videos, but the little videos, the short videos that you're seeing are all filmed separately from those long form videos. So I'm making each one of those cards twice because in the YouTube videos I'm talking and doing it kind of slower. On the TikToks you're doing it faster. So there's a lot of work that goes into all those videos.
Social media is like a full-time gig
Yeah.
for creators. It really is. And that's
Yeah.
why I often slack on it, because it just takes up so much time. It's a good thing, not a bad thing, but it is a very time intensive thing. So when I see your reels pop up, I'm like, go Simon, look at you. 'Cause it's a lot of work. It's a ton of work.
You'll see like 3 reels in 1 week and then nothing for like the next 2 and then 3 more.
I was so good in the fall, and then for like
Yeah.
3 months I put nothing on Instagram.
Yeah, that's how I was for a while too. Everyone was like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good. I just haven't uploaded in a while."
It's rough.
Yeah.
It's really
And then-
hard. It's
Wait.
hard.
Someone asked who handles all my social media. It's just me.
Yeah.
Does that include
Same. That's
responses as
something I
well?
do.
Because sometimes you get a lot of comments.
Yeah, with responses, it's like responses, I try to get back to people as much as I can. I usually will look at it within the first day or two, and then usually after that, I can't do much after that. Unless like sometimes I'll open an app, and if I see a question pop up right away, I'll be able to answer it. But sometimes they get lost. So if they do get lost and you're not getting an answer, try several times. And Facebook is not the way to reach me. Don't try there because you won't get a response.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
Facebook is tough for communicating. It is
Yeah.
hard
It
with
is.
questions. When you're getting questions in your email, on your YouTube videos, on Instagram, like we appreciate them, but when there's so many, it's really easy to miss some things. So sometimes you might have to ask us more than once. So that's
And then usually we'll
We
probably
try.
see it after a couple times. Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
Sometimes you got to hit us over the head.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure. Somebody asked what the next Hanging with Hero is. Let me just say that we're not on next week, but the following week, August. What month are we in? August 14th. We are talking with Heidi Swap. So that'll be an interesting discussion.
Yeah.
Kind of a different part of our industry. Scrapbooking and journaling is really where she came up and made her name. So just like Simon, it's, we're trying to get to different places in this industry because I think they all connect and creativity is uniting. So we'll join Heidi into our rabbit hole here in paper crafting. Simon, so with all these different platforms and the work that you do, how do you kind of differentiate between all of these in terms of your own interests? Like, what do you most like? If you could just pick just one thing that you loved or a couple things you loved, what would you do like all the time? Like, what is your happy place and sweet spot for kind of really developing content or products or creating cards or what? Like, what do you just love to do yourself?
I love all of it except for, I would say, the emails and the accounting. So if I could get rid of those 2 things, I would love all of it because I love the fact that it's like a job with so many different things you could do. Like if one day you're not feeling super inspired by the making of it, you can go behind the scenes and maybe you have a good product idea and you want to work on names or colors or things like that. And I think like it's so cool that you're able to find something that you love that has so many different facets to it because you're never really bored because you have so much to do spread across so many different types of things. So it's like if you filmed a video, maybe you're not wanting to film for the next 2 weeks, but you now have that video you can edit. And I kind of love the filming and editing aspect of it too. So like most of it I love, but sometimes like the emails and the accounting, my team will get mad at me because they won't see an email for a week sometimes. And it's like, they've learned that texting me is the best way because I'll see all of my texts. But the emails, it's like they might slide through the inbox a little bit.
Yeah. They
So,
just build up.
yeah, they build up. And so like I think a lot of my team is just gets me on the phone now too and starts phone calling me because it's a lot easier to work that way and not have to pause what you're doing when you're creating.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the different aspects of the job. I think it's awesome.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I think because that's one of the areas that I think it really shows through. Like it shows through, and I've seen that in the comments all night here as people have heard you talk, Simon, that it just comes through that you really enjoy what you're
Yeah.
doing and that you've got kind of a passion for the products that you're working with, whether they're yours or others. And you know the kind of YouTube format really seems to suit that passion. So yeah, definitely well done. And thank you all for the such great questions, because I think that your questions always make these chats so much more enjoyable because it gives us a sense of what you're thinking about. And you know, we try to come up, Jennifer and I, with questions for our guests, but your questions are often much better and much more interesting. In terms of the creative process and the products that we have in our industry, like where do you see us going? Where do you see this industry going? I mean, one of the things that we have to do is attract more customers. That's always been the case. In order to keep an industry vivacious and vibrant, is you have to continue to get new people looking at things and really going from, hey, how do I even use this clear stamp, to, you know, I really want to make my own Christmas cards this year with your new line. So how do you see us doing that going forward, continuing to invite new customers in, and where do you think that takes us as an industry? This is a question I've asked every guest, and I just love hearing it because, you know, none of us know this, but we're all in it together. You know, this
Right.
is where we unite. This is where
Yep.
Jennifer and Simon and Hero Arts have to work together. This is where the industry has. That's why we had, you know, Kelly from Lawn Fawn and Greg from Concord and Ninth, and, you know, Namil and Tasmin from, you know, from Alt New, and we'll probably have Spellbinders on, and we've had, you know, all these different influencers and companies. But, you know, where do we go from here, and what do you see, Simon? Kind of us going, and, you know, how are we going to get there?
I will tell you, this question always scares me because I don't
Yeah.
know what I'm doing tomorrow. So I'm like, I don't know necessarily where it's going to go, but I can say for sure that I think, like you said, it's kind of all about collaboration and kind of inviting that in. I think that is so amazing because, like you were saying earlier, it's like Spellbinders might come up with a new machine like the Better Press, but with everyone supporting that, it makes it a much bigger thing. And it really, like,
Yep.
a lot of people say this, but like when one ship rises in the industry, we all rise. I don't know exactly what the
Yep.
whole saying is,
Yeah,
right?
we try to say it in every episode and we've never gotten it right.
I think it's a game of telephone. Like maybe it gets passed down to the younger generations in the industry, and we never fully completed the saying, right? But
Yep.
Right.
but I think that is like so true and important because it's like, you could be doing something in your own lane, but it's not going to be as allowed without everyone else's help. And I think that's the awesome part about our industry is it's like, you don't usually see three competitors on a panel in any other industry. And so I think it's so amazing that we're all able to work together and kind of grow the industry together. In terms of growing and seeing new people, I think that it's all about like, as much as we don't want to do it, jumping onto some of these social medias where it like kind of throws you out there to everyone else, because that's sort of how you'll reach like people on accident. And I've met a lot of amazing sort of friends and people who have just started that are sort of, my age or slightly older, but they started because they saw my card making videos. And so I think that's really awesome and kind of an incredible thing to be able to jump on the new kind of trendy social media forms in order to get our industry out there a little bit more and have people love it and enjoy it so much. And it's so funny too, because like you'll make these videos and they'll go out to a bunch of people and people will be like, hey, like actually my grandma used to make cards and I used to make cards with her and now I kind of want to get back into it. And so like
There you
it's
go.
super cool that it's sort of coming down to these younger generations, although they might have been exposed to it before, like maybe they're seeing it again and they want to try again. And so I think that's awesome.
Yeah. Well said. I totally agree. And I think that hanging with Hero in some ways is a manifestation of that, is trying to
Yep.
collaborate, trying to show things again, trying to talk about, again, not something new, but something old, but maybe new in as it gets translated by different people, working in an industry where competitors aren't really competitors but are really friends. Even asking you, Simon, to join this, you were like, of course, I'd love to join Hanging with Heroes. So this is kind of an industry of collabs, an industry of friends, an industry of building on each other, building each other up. A rising tide lifts all boats. And maybe if we were playing a game of telephone, that would be monkeys in the tree make us all giggle. I don't know, something like that. But whatever it is, it's the point is we all work together, and we all we all lift each other up. And I think that's such a beautiful message in our little rabbit hole here in the world. I like this spot in the world. I think it's a beautiful place, and I think, Simon, you do such a great job in furthering that. So new customers like you, when you were 13, I think that is in some ways a misnomer, because you could be a new customer at any age. You could come to it at 13 or 103, and if you find it new and inspiring, I think that's beautiful. And I think your message of let's try to do it different ways, through YouTube, through Instagram, to TikTok, maybe Facebook. I know Facebook is hard for all of us, but that's how I think we find people in this day and age. And stores play such a key role. Simon Says Stamps, scrapbook.com as well, online stores, because I think that's where we all need to find that entry points in order to keep this industry fresh and new.
I agree.
Yeah.
Totally.
All right. Well, with that, thank you all for joining Hanging with Hero. We really appreciate all of you joining us. Simon, it's always a joy talking with you. I really enjoyed hearing your origin story, and I kind of read some, about some of it to do research for it, but you brought it to life in such a wonderful way, and I kind of want to, go and watch all of your YouTube videos now. I kind of want to meet your mom. She's
great.
Don't go back too far on the YouTube videos. You'll see me like aging down backwards, right? But no, yeah, it's a lot of fun, and thanks for having me today, guys. It was great chatting.
If you've never watched one of Simon's YouTube videos, I encourage you to do so. He is an exceptional teacher, exceptional. So I really encourage you, if you see events where he's teaching or he has a new YouTube video, I always encourage you to check them out.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
And thank you, Jennifer.
Aaron, somebody asked, when's the Heidi swap date? Is it the 14th, August 14th? I'm on vacation
14th.
Next week, so we can't do it next week. So yeah, okay.
Yeah, so we're off next week. So August 14th, same time and place, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. It's a Wednesday night. It'll be great fun to talk with Heidi Swap. And we've got more Hanging with Hero that are coming. It's just we only try to announce one at a time. Although we did announce both Simon and Heidi last time because I was just too excited that Simon was coming. And so I let it slip. But we're excited to continue to do this. And, maybe we'll continue to do this and we'll have you back sometime, Simon. But either way, it's really was a lot of fun talking with you. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Yeah, that would be a blast. I would love to come back. But if I come back, we got to all turn down our cameras and we got to all create. So you got to make a card with us then, Aaron.
Hey.
I challenge you
All right.
to it, right?
Yes.
He'd do it.
I'll start by watching your videos so I get inspired.
Yeah, that'd be fun. That'd be great.
And I definitely want that dart frog color because that is one of my favorite colors.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go out and find it. All right, great. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Thank you for joining another episode of Hanging with Hero, and see you on August 14th. Take care. Good night.
Thank you. Thanks, Simon.